You can probably relate to this. Shauna writes, "What do I do when my child argues about everything?" We're going to answer that, Shauna. As a psychologist, I've got to go to the psychology behind this first. Why do kids argue? Why do they do it? You're thinking like a parent. Think like a child for a minute. Why does a child argue? Because they don't like the limit that was just set. They don't like it. They want you to take it away. They want you to change whatever it is that you just did. Is this accurate? That's why kids argue. They don't have any control over the limits that you set. But if they don't like them, they're going to kick up a fuss. They're going to kick up a stink. They're going to try to get you to change your mind, and that's why they argue. Next question. Why do parents argue? Do you know? You're a parent, and you're arguing with a child. Why? The child's arguing because the child doesn't like the limits, but the child doesn't control the limits. You do. Why are you arguing? Because you don't like the way your child is reacting to the way you set the limits. Fair enough? But you don't control your child's attitude. This is why parents argue. They get all frustrated and upset about the attitude their kids have when they set the limits. But you don't control your kid's attitude. So what we really got to start with here is an understanding of what you control and what you don't. Some things you control, other things you don't. Are we clear about that? That's a basic rule of life. Some things you control and other things you don't. Then the next important thing is to pay attention to the things you control. Because you don't have to argue about those things, do you? Let's just make that tip number 1. Pay attention to the things you control. Because you don't have to argue about that. I got a couple other tips for you. Tip number 2, disengage. Disengage from what, Dr. Paul? Well, disengage from the argument. You don't have to argue because you control the consequences or the limits that you just set. The thing you're upset about is your kid being upset about you controlling the limits. Disengage from that piece. In other words, be okay with any kind of response or reaction you get from the little ones, and honestly be okay with it. Understand that they're going to be upset about some of the limits that you've set. That's okay. I used to tell my kids all the time, "Oh, that's all right. You don't have to like it," which irritated and annoyed them a little bit. But this is the feeling that I'm trying to convey, that you are completely detached and emotionally disengaged from whatever their response is. They can be happy about it. They can be unhappy about it. Either way is okay with you. I have a warning for you here. In psychology, we call it the Extinction Curve. As soon as you take away the payoff for whatever they're doing, like a good example is whining. When your kids are whining, and they're begging and pleading for something and whining about it, and you give it to them, they take away the whining. Well, what if you don't give it to them? They turn up the volume, don't they? Yeah, because they're thinking in their own little head, "This always used to work with Mom. I must be losing my touch. I better turn up the volume." And so they crank it up on you. The whining increases. If your kids are arguing with you about everything, and you stop engaging with them in that argument, the most likely thing that's going to happen is they're going to step up their game a little. They're going to turn up the volume. Be ready for that. It's called an extinction curve. They're just testing to see if this is still going to work. Now, if they turn up the volume and then you cave in and engage with them and start that argument, or engage in the argument, then all they've learned from that interaction is, "Oh, yep, sure enough. I knew I could get to Mom. I just had to turn up the volume first. Dad always cracks under the pressure, but sometimes you have to give him a little more pressure. That's not what we want them to learn. So after they turn up the volume, you gotta hold your ground. And you're still cool. You're still not engaging. You're still not arguing with them. And what happens is that they'll learn that that doesn't work anymore. And then they'll back off of it. Trust me, this works. A good old-fashioned Dr. Paul tip. Keep smiling. Smile. Because when parents are smiling, kids are nervous. They wonder what you're up to. They wonder what you know. They wonder what you're in control of that they no longer have control over. It's a good signal. Smile, okay? And do it in a genuine way so that it's not phony or pretense. It's simply that you're going to smile and then find something that you can agree with. Your kids are never wrong about how they feel. You could always pick that. Oh, I see that you're really frustrated about this. And instead of arguing with them, you're showing them empathy. You smile, you find something that you can agree with, express that empathy. And guess what? Those arguments are going to start disappearing. Thank you, Shauna, for that suggestion for this video. I love those suggestions that we get from our parenting community here at Live on Purpose TV. Thank you for being conscious parents. If you haven't yet checked out the Parenting Power Up, it's time, don't you think? Click on that link right over there or down in the description, parentingpowerup.com. Vicki and I have teamed up to bring you some powerful tools, and we're thrilled to be on your team.
alone.